Well, good morning everybody, this is DearMamaSal on an extremely foggy Tuesday morning. It's 4 degrees here in southern British Columbia, which would make it about 39, yes, 39 degrees if you translate it through to American. It is probably the visibility is down to about half a block at the moment. That's pretty bad. So I'm going to be leaving plenty of space between myself and the next car this morning. And except the fact that I'm probably going to be late for work because the traffic is going to be slower. Now, the good news is there is slightly less traffic because I believe it's spring break here. I could be wrong. I think it is. As you can hear, I still have a cold in my nose. But having a cold is far preferable to what I had on Thursday with the temperature and everything else going on. So I'm not complaining at all. As I said, it was a very interesting little thing that took the whole office down. It wasn't just me. It's amazing. I think there are more people struggling than there are people healthy at work at the moment. But, you know, we're kind, generous people. We share. And it always makes me laugh because if I get sick... windshield washer. If I get sick, then my boss is always the first one to say, hey Sal, you know, if you need time off, you take it, sort of thing. He never does. So it's a case of, you know, the double standard. Don't do as I do, do as I say. As I always laugh about that. So when he says that to me, I always look at him and I go, yeah, the same as you do, you mean? I still have a job. It's amazing, isn't it? So I wanted to bring you a comment from watching the news this morning. It's not often that I do this, but I really got stirred by the news, and it had to do with the university where a whole one of the houses, you know, was videotaped singing an extremely racial song. And the question was, you know, do you just get rid of the people who were singing the song? Do you get rid of them all, or do you just get rid of the ringleaders, you know, whatever? And it was a very interesting debate because it basically said something that I believe in. And I want you to give some thought to this. If you were on that bus and you didn't stand up and say, hey, this sucks big time. You know, our house does not stand for this, or this does not represent who we are as a fraternity or whatever. If you don't stand up and say that, then you just approve the action. Now, I know that in this day and age, standing up for what you believe is extremely risky. Extremely risky. I understand that. But how come not one person had the sphericals to do that? And then it made me think about the number of times in my life that I saw something going down that I didn't think was a good thing, and I stood up against it. And you can probably imagine a few more times than I care to remember. And did I pay the price for it? Did I get punished for it? Did I get attacked for it? Did I? Yeah, you bet. You bet I did. Because nobody likes, with all due respect, nobody likes somebody who reminds them of an issue. And so I can remember one case, and I want to give you a case study of it, because otherwise you talk about it and it doesn't make any sense sometimes. And somebody on a board that I chaired, somebody made quite a serious mistake. And it was really interesting, because the powers that be over and above my level came down and wanted to attack this person who'd made a genuine mistake, in my view. I didn't think it was malicious. I didn't think it was intentional. I thought it was just that they didn't see it through that far. And so I stood up against what was happening. And I said, if you want to punish anybody, let it be me. No, well, Sal, we don't want to do that. I said, I know you don't want to do that, but if you want to punish anybody, let it be me. Because I was in charge. And, you know, it was really strange, because in doing that, I put myself at extreme risk to some degree. I certainly lost some reputation, whether I liked it or not. And I've always said the one thing, you know, that I hold very dear is my reputation as a human being. Not that I'm perfect, because I'm not, but I like to think that overall my ethics are not too bad. But it came down to the fact, you know, what am I going to stand for? Am I going to stand for somebody with a lot of power wielding it over somebody below me? No. So if you want to wield a lot of power, try wielding it at me and see what happens. I think that really was where I was at. The same thing as some of you have heard me tell the story where I was working in a company once, and the CEO suddenly wanted to change the whole of a commission structure for the staff. And I went, oh no. I mean, just like instantly, and I went, oh no, you don't. You don't do that. And I always remember the CEO looking at me and going, I'll do what I like, it's my company. And I said, yeah, you can do what you like. I totally agree with you. It is your company and you can do whatever you like. But you do this, you take this move that you're talking about immediately, I walk this afternoon. I mean, as soon as this goes down, I'm out of here. And the reason will be because this is inhumane to the staff. And if you want to take that to court, I'll gladly stand up for it. Now, was that intelligent? Probably not. But what did I know? I was making that man a lot of money. A lot of money. In a business that hadn't made a lot of money until I got there. So I took a risk, but it was a calculated risk. I was pretty sure he didn't want me walking out the door that day. And then he stormed off and I stormed off, and we both went to our respective corners. And about half an hour later, he came back and said, just as a matter of interest, what would you have me do instead? And I smiled and said, well, you just did it. You went and thought about it a bit. And I said, but here's what I would recommend. And we did do what I recommended, and it worked just fine. So my question really is, who was it that said if you don't stand up for something, you stand for nothing? And my question to you is, what do you stand for? How many times have you watched something go down that wasn't right and just walked away rather than say anything? So I'm not saying that you have to do it or not. I'm saying have a look at who you are, because, I'm pretty sure I talked about it, but there was this incredible woman that I heard recently who said that, the most dangerous thing in the world today is the silent majority. There are a few people doing some really strange things in the world, and a few people are very upset about it. And the rest of us are a silent majority. We're just glad we don't have to make that decision and leave it to the other people. And so I think in this week where we celebrate the walk across the bridge in Selma and the human rights fight, I look at it and say, it takes people not to be violent, but to say something, to show something, to act differently. And the reason I want to talk about this, because we start with it in the schools and bullying. Bullies would not get away with what they get away with if there weren't people standing around snickering with them. Bullies would not get away with what they get away with if enough people reported them. But bullies, I hate to say this, to my mind, bullies are like, they're terrorists, right? Their whole reason for being is to terrify somebody. Not just necessarily just insult them, but to terrify them in a lot of cases. So part of my reality is, if I was talking not so long ago to a young child who had just gone into junior high, and my first question was, are you getting bullied? And he sort of, went a bit sheepish on me, and I said, no, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. I need to know, are you getting bullied? And we sort of gave him some tips on what he might do if he is. And I was delighted to hear just recently that yes, he was being bullied, but after the talk we had and the suggestions we made, he had reacted and he wasn't getting bullied anymore. Yay! Because he stood up against the bullies. And so I take this situation in the news at the moment and I go, where does this behavior start? It starts because nobody says anything. I heard an absolutely heart-rending, I mean really tore at my heart, talk from an ex-member of this, or a member of this fraternity, but some years ago. And, you know, the anchor said, how do you feel about what your brothers in the fraternity have done? And he said, they're not my brothers. My fraternity brothers would never have sanctioned this, would never have allowed it. We had a pact where we were gentlemen, and we had a rule of conduct on that. And it certainly did not agree. And this is a black man, interestingly enough, and I say it that way because, you know, the hate song was about black people, and it was just like, he said, there is no way this would have been tolerated. And so this changed, this mentality changed because somebody got to the top of that pecking order in that fraternity who was a racist. It had to have happened, because if it didn't, it wouldn't have happened. And the reason I say that is I've chaired enough things in my life, enough boards and goodness knows what else, to know that what you allow to happen is your responsibility. And what you choose not to allow is your character. Or you can say both of those statements is a true statement. So you look at it and you go, I really challenge you all to have a look at what you stand for. And I must say that I am very, very fortunate to have a lot of viewers who I believe have a lot of character. A lot of them have a great sense of humor, and they have to have. But what I love about them is they stand for something. And you know, if I do something that they think is inappropriate, they'll let me know. And I value that in people. Or they'll query it, they'll check it out. Why did I do this? Because they thought it was, you know, a little bit rude for me. And they'll make me look at what I'm doing, and I go, good for you, I'm proud of that. And I normally go out of my way to thank them. Now, either I've got a good reason for doing what I did, and it's never a good reason to be rude to somebody, but, you know, that's a perception. But, you know, it's like, I really value that they care that much. So, now then, in my reporting to Manon, I just want to tell you that as much as I didn't feel like doing it, I do need to tell you I did do the top left-hand corner of my bedroom last night. 3 times I didn't do it, and the 4th time I went. I challenged Manon, I have to do it. So I have to tell you, what I swept off the floor was fascinating. It was like a catch-all in that corner. I don't know if any of you got a corner like that. But things had fallen on the floor, and then they get sort of, you know, they work their way into this corner. It's like a little hidey hole. And it really was quite amusing. And so, Manon, I just want to challenge you. And I am now working on the top right-hand corner, because if that's the left-hand corner, the right-hand corner probably is just as bad. On that wonderful note, stand up for what you believe in. Have the courage of your convictions. Protect, if you can, protect those that are not capable of protecting themselves, either because of the fact they don't have the knowledge, or they don't have the internal fortitude, guts to protect themselves. And know that people will learn not to mess with you. It's not that you have to be nasty or horrible or vicious or violent or anything. Just they know not to mess with you, because there is a limit to how much they can push you. And I know you all know that there have been times when I've stood my ground. Even with DearMamaSal. And so think about that. Have a great day, everybody. Look after one another as usual. We all have days where we're not feeling at our best, and thank you all for caring for me when I was not feeling at my best. I definitely do owe a lot of people an apology, because I did go off the grid for a number of days without really letting anybody know that I was okay, and for that I am very, very sorry. I know that doesn't cut it, because it was just wrong. I should have let people know that I was okay, just sick. And I'm sure that from the emails that I got that some of you were genuinely worried. And on that one, I send you my sincere and heartfelt apologies and give you my commitment that I will not do that again. I don't know what got into me. I think I was just so overwhelmed. I couldn't think of anything but myself for a while there. It's not a good enough excuse. All right. Big hugs to everyone. Have a wonderful day. And for those of you that are new, welcome. Thank you for being here. This is DearMamaSal saying bye-bye for now.